Well, welcome everyone. We plan on this being interactive and entertaining because we are talking about gamification. So why am I giving this presentation? I'm a senior principal consultant right now, but my first startup was, we were the first mobile grocery in Chicago to be able to accept food stamps. We waivered USDA, and it was an incredible project. And when you're trying to get people to switch from the norms, right, what they're used to doing something new, you need to be engaging and interactive, right? So I don't ever see that wheel that spins that you get a coupon or a discount or things like that. Like, we would bring those out to presentations. We gamified things like that. And then another startup in food and nutrition too. Again, when you're trying to change habits, let's make it entertaining. And then stints in healthcare and gym management software. So throughout all those experiences, I continue to layer on and getting better at gamification tactics.
Hey, Mike.
So, yep.
Turn your mic on.
Oh. Alrighty, that'll be helpful. A little better, huh? You guys can actually hear me. All right, I'll start from the beginning. So when I was born, no, I'm just kidding. I'll hand it over to Bret now.
So I'm Bret Wardle. Along the same lines as Mike, why I'm here. I am a 10-year video game design veteran. I've worked for companies like EA. I've worked for small development studios that are making licensed IP games. I've worked on My Little Pony. I've worked for Major League Baseball. I've worked for even a Major League eating game. Tons of licensed properties. I worked on the Sims franchise with EA, a number of things. I've also given, some people have noticed in my profile on LinkedIn as I've talked to people, I've given a TED Talk on video games as well, and why I feel that Super Metroid from the mid-90s is the greatest digital experience ever created. And I love talking about games. In short, that's what I do, that's what I enjoy, and it is a passion of mine. It's games, how we apply game psychology, game mechanics, all of that to our products as product leaders. So to kind of get us started a little bit, who plays games to start? Does anyone play any game? We're talking sports, video games, board games, anything. What are some of everyone's favorite games? Just shout them out.
Dominion, board game.
Dominion, great game. What else?
Ticket to Ride.
Ticket to Ride. Have you ever played the Ticket to Ride Junior?
No, I haven't.
Like, I play it with my kids, and it's like significantly easier. We tried the like big one with them, and it was like so far over their heads. The Junior is great. I love Ticket to Ride. Anything else? Cranium. I love Cranium as well. Some great games out there, right? My personal favorite is the Legend of Zelda series. Like, I love Zelda. I've been like totally absorbed in Tears of the Kingdom. Like, it's been swallowing huge chunks of my life. Like, seriously, like, if you want to talk Zelda after this, come and talk to me. Like, I can talk for hours on this alone. But we talk passionately about games. We talk about why we enjoy them. We talk about the mechanics, the stories we have amongst them. But if we take a look at the products, like, does anyone have a favorite word editor? Favorite spreadsheet maker? It's pretty far and few between, right? Like, we don't talk with passion about these sorts of things, but we do with games. The psychology of games, we're always telling stories. We're telling about the time that this happened, the time that that happened, where the fun was, where we had these connections with people. But we don't necessarily have this with products, and we should, right? Games themselves are thousands of years old. You're talking the game of is 4,600 years old. Dice, we have remnants of dice found that are as old as 4,500 years. Even the modern playing cards that we have with suits and ranks and all of that, there's been those found 1,000 years old. Like, we're talking thousands of years of games, and the sociability is built into them. You start to see in history games and game mechanics moving their way into non-game contexts pretty early, like earlier than most of us think, and at its core, that's really what we're talking about here. You see, is anyone familiar with S&H green stamps? Like, it's a pretty old concept, but the idea was you shop at certain stores, you buy certain products, you earn these little stamps you see here, and you collect them in this book, turn them in for rewards. Like, it's kind of the crux of the modern day loyalty programs. Like, we all use these loyalty programs now. It started here, and it really picked up. It started in, I believe, 1898 is when S&H green stamps started. They really picked up in the 1930s, ran through the 70s. You start to see Boy Scout and Girl Scouting adopting some of the same things. You master a skill, you earn recognition for that skill, and my favorite part is like you actually get a tangible thing to go and share with people, to show people that you've mastered this skill. You get the badge that you can iron on or sew on yourself to your sort of sash and show people that you've done this. And then even with the dawn of technology, we have the computer age hitting its rise. One of the first things we did after computers started, after you started having the EDSAC and EDNIAC and all of these like giant mainframe computers, one of the first things people did was went and create games for them. Like games follow computers by only a few years. It didn't take us long to go, oh, these giant machines with this computing power, what can we do with them? Well, I don't know, let's play games with them. It was one of the first things that we started to go to. And now you see it everywhere. I mean, you see Sky Miles, hotel rewards. All of us here are probably using most of these. Like most of us flew on an airline that we're loyal to. We're staying at a hotel chain possibly that we're loyal to. All these other things, eating at restaurants. So to do a little bit of a social experiment on that, I mean, everyone, most people at least, have had their morning coffee or are still drinking afternoon coffee like myself. Is there anyone, like just with a quick show of hands, is there anyone that went out of their way to go get coffee from a particular place that wasn't just the conference or hotel coffee? Huh? You see that, and that's what the loyalty will do. Even further than that, is there anyone that stayed away from coffee or maybe chose tea or water because a health tracking app told them that it would probably be a better idea? Like mine should. Like I've been like living on coffee for the last 4 days. And again, like, did anyone maybe choose the hotel or the conference coffee because a financial app told them, hey, like, don't go to Starbucks, don't spend that $6, like, there's 3 or 4 places you can get free coffee around. Like, these change the way we act in our lives. All of these programs from many different angles, whether it's health, finance, or loyalty, all kind of control what we do. All of those are gamification elements. I think a lot of times, people will hear gamification and the immediate thought is points, badges, leaderboards. At its core, it's psychology. Game psychology is really what we're talking about. Points, badges, leaderboards do one thing. They can increase some engagement, they can build some loyalty, but games at that profound level create conversation, it creates sociability. It helps us interact with things and interact with the products we use. What are some of the things that gamification and game mechanics do? They engage our users, they increase retention, they guide desired behavior. If you want to guide someone down a certain path, game mechanics are a great way to do this. Lots of things that game mechanics do. But like, we want to talk about these and talk about how we break these down a little bit. So the way that we break down game mechanics, Mike and myself, they kind of break into 5 categories that we use to try to influence this behavior. You have reward systems, you have progress tracking, you have narrative and storytelling, you have social engagement, and then you kind of have like what's a catch-all in game psychology. And that's kind of how we start to break them down, and we'll talk about them here in a second. But the way that I like to talk about these, again, because we can look at products, and as product designers, as product leaders, a lot of times that's what we want to do. We want to say, hey, what's another product that does this well? What's an example of a product that uses social engagement that I can go and get an example from? Me as a practitioner, I actually look to games. Like, I don't look at other products that are doing this well. I go what I consider to the source. Like, how are games using these mechanics? They're the masters of this. They're the ones that have built their entire industry, a $200 billion industry, on these mechanics. And so that's exactly what I want to show. So when we take a look at reward systems, one of my favorites is Pokemon Go. Do we have any Pokemon Go players? My family, like, we love this game. But it is, like, you are getting rewards all over the place. Every time you catch a Pokemon, you get a reward. You get daily rewards for logging in, weekly rewards for logging in, monthly rewards for logging in. There are rewards popping up all over the place, and it incentivizes you to continue playing. Every time I go out of town, I usually become back addicted to this because there's new Pokestops, there's new Pokemon, there's things that I didn't have. I'm from Salt Lake City, and I kind of get in this rut of where I am, but there's new Pokemon here in New Orleans. There's new places to visit in New Orleans, and I can do that in game just as well as I can do that in my own city. And that helps us stay engaged. It helps us move along this path. When we talk about progress tracking, one of my favorite progress tracking games is Fall Guys. I don't know if anyone's familiar with this. It's a crazy story. Fall Guys is one of those games that started as a pay-to-play. They ended up getting bought up by Epic, and Epic has now made it free-to-play. But they build you in. You see the reward pass over on the left there. As you build all these levels, you go through 100 levels that you level up. And each time you do, you may see this lock or this free. If it's locked, you have to be a reward member. So every time you're leveling up, it's encouraging you, hey, for this many tickets or this cost, you can unlock all these additional rewards. And every time you level, you're doing it. Narrative and storytelling. I know I've talked to a few people about this, but Mass Effect is my favorite game when it comes to narrative and storytelling. You have full decision trees where you're choosing what your character says. You're interfacing with almost every non-playable character in the game, and they all affect an outcome. It either builds your trust, it makes you seem more of a scumbag. All of the decisions you make are built through storytelling and change the way that the game plays. And it's really interesting to see how that happens throughout the game. For social engagement, I know I talked about, we have the stickers up here and some Among Us stickers. This is the ultimate social experience to me. Among Us, a lot of times you think social and you think leaderboards, who's at the top of the leaderboard, or you think about sharing or doing stuff like that. Among Us is this crazy mix of are we friends, are we foes? There's trust, there's deception, there's lying, you will just outright lie in this game to try to save yourself. You will throw friends under the bus. You will try to build alliances to save friends. If you've never played Among Us, one of my favorite things to do in a retro is get our team together and play a few rounds of Among Us. And you will see how crazy your team will get and throwing members under the bus. And it's a nice relief of experience. After you've gone through a long retro, playing this is a great way to just kind of kill it down a little bit. And then there's just the game psychology. One of my favorite principles in game psychology is emergent behavior. If you're not familiar with that term, it is taking a product, taking a game, and using it for something other than its intended purpose. You see this in games all the time. My favorite example is Minecraft. Minecraft is literally just a system of systems. And within it, you can choose to do whatever you want. You can be a farmer, you can build houses, you can go explore caves, tons of things to do. You see here, this is literally a roller coaster that me, my wife, and kids built in our realm, where our kids were just I want to build a roller coaster ride around in Minecraft. You can do it. There's systems that you can do whatever you want in these games. And using these mechanics, we can affect a ton of different things. And to talk a little bit about that and talk about where we can apply these mechanics, I'm going to pass it over to Mike.
Cool. Thank you, Bret. So let's level up our products, right? The key here is striking the right balance. Gamification, as in life, you need great balance to succeed. Now, too little gamification isn't effective, right? You can't put up one leaderboard and leave it for the year and expect results, right? Gamification is dynamic. On the other hand, if you put too much gamification into your product, users are overwhelmed and they feel taken advantage of, and it decreases the intrinsic rewards of doing things. So, gamification is it's a tool, not the outcome. We don't go set out and say you know what, I want to go do gamification. It's no, I want to go do X, and gamification is a tool in my toolbox to make that happen. Also, like everything else in product, test and iterate. Come up with gamification ideas, game mechanics, put them in your product, test it. What is the data telling you? Is the data telling you that users are interacting with it? They like it? Are you doing customer surveys? Is it well received? If it is, great, build on that. If it's not, try something else. I'm not going to spend too much time on this because how many people have heard multiple presentations on OKRs and KPIs? The point, again, with gamification, it should align to your business goals. If your goal is to grow user revenue by 20%, align gamification to help make that happen. If you're looking to keep retention at a certain level, use gamification to make that happen. It is a tool, it is not the outcome. And then choose your game mechanics. So, when we talk about voice of the customer, understanding the user, while you're building your persona and you're thinking about game mechanics, Bret, I believe there are 12 different types of game personas, right? What type of gamer they are. So not only do you know your customer and your user, but understand what type of gamer they are, what they like to play, how they like to play it. And as we talked about, a common theme through all of this too is once you understand your user, then you understand their story. And once you understand their story and the story that you want to tell, you build your game mechanics on top of it. Challenges, social elements, progression systems, and match the mechanics to the behaviors you aim to drive. Has anyone seen The Witcher on Netflix or played the video game? All right, we got one or two people that understand what I'm talking about. This is one of my favorite games because just the story of the game, your decisions as you play this game dictate the outcome. There's morality involved. There are different romantic subplots in it, right? It is a very complex game, and the way that you go through these challenges, even just the interaction when you're fighting is different between physical and magic and elixirs and all these different things. So they do a really good job of telling a great story, integrating different challenges and metrics and gaming systems so it doesn't get stale, and aim to really engulf the user in the story and the gameplay. Build the game loop. Anyone ever play Donkey Kong? All right, so when building a game loop, just think about the structure of Donkey Kong. What's your goal? Trying to save the princess. How are you gonna do it? You gotta jump over a bunch of barrels. There's some challenges, loops, and rewards. But you get to the next level, what's your reward? You save the princess, or he grabs her, he goes up another level, right? And then it progresses, it gets harder, the story goes on, and the level gets harder, right? And that's the loop. One of the arcade style. Then progress to the 90s when you had Legend of Zelda, right? I mean, remember this is on Game Boy, but the story that they told, Link crashes on the island, right? That's the stage. What are you going to do now? There's a tutorial that goes so you can understand the gameplay and the mechanics. Then you go through different dungeons. It progresses. You understand the story. And then there's a climax at the end when he fights Nightmare and the story ends, right? All this happened on a little Game Boy, using a great story and game mechanics. And then another one, which I think is one of the best stories within video games, is Final Fantasy VII. It was such a compelling narrative. The progression of Cloud and uncovering his past and things that came out of nowhere, right? And then the development with other characters in the game that made you want to get better at the game and fight those bosses so you could get more of the story. That, I feel like God of War and some of these other games that are out there now, the playing is part of the enjoyment, but you're playing to progress to go out throughout the story. So let's level up your product management, strategy, and marketing. So let's think about gamifying our product development processes. In this next sprint, you're going to bring your engineering team around and say, hey, we're going to do an extermination game. Whoever fixes the most bugs gets a t-shirt. And it'll say the exterminator or something like that. The rewards that you provide your team don't always have to be financial, right? They could be fun, they could be interactive, they could be a little trophy that they put on their desk. Incorporate game elements into task management like points and leaderboards and the things that we use every day. Who uses Slack? Slack is a plugin for gamification. You could create leaderboards, interactive elements. You could design an internal gamification strategy just using Slack. And Atlassian, Jira, and Trello both have plugins for you to design a gamification strategy. You don't have to buy software. You don't have to start from scratch. The tools that we use out there are ripe for integrating some gamification. And there's toolbox from other places. One of the first gamification tools I used in managing a product team was StoryPoint Poker. And this is a website you could go check out, and it's a way for you and your team to assess points in user stories by playing poker. There's another one, the baseball draft. Take your pre-planning session before you get into a sprint and do a draft and rank your engineers, right, from 1 to 7 or whatever it is, and let them have choices. They make trades on tickets. It's fun, right? Our job could be a lot of fun and increase the cohesiveness of our teams when we play games. Speaking of games, this is one of my favorite retros, Mario Kart. So I can't stress enough, Miro.com/Miroverse. They have tons of templates. Games for everything you can think of, from strategy to running sprints, to design thinking, and all that stuff. So I use this as my toolbox to play fun retros. So, hey team, what slowed us down? Who hit a banana on this sprint and spun out, right? Well, what powered us? What powered us? What are we worried about, right? What are we looking over our shoulder for? Because that blue shell is going to come and crash us and take us off course. So we're getting the same information out of these that we would in a regular sprint, probably, but it's not as dry, right? It's fun, it's engaging, it brings up the level of motivation, and then sometimes more of what your team is willing to share. And this isn't the only theme one. They have Star Wars. They have, I forgot the other game, Street Fighter. Like, you know, there's all these different type of retro templates that make retros more fun and engaging. Storyboarding. We, you know, keep iterating how important this story is for all of this. So do some storyboarding exercises with your team. You can do it on an actual whiteboard, or you can grab a storyboard template. IBM is one of my favorites. So if you go to IBM/design thinking, they have templates and tools and, you know, a lot of design thinking templates that you can use to design your gamification strategy. So frame your story, select your characters. What are your characters going through? Like, what do you think the game would be? What rewards would they want to get out of it? Illustrate it, and then look at pain points and opportunities. And you can even split off into teams and storyboard, right? And then use dot voting to vote on what you think the best story is, best parts of the story, things like that. Another couple of quick examples. Gamified workshops. Who here has ever run a workshop with their team or with a client? All right, most of us have. My favorite way to get in a workshop, especially with a new team, is I'll create an icebreaker. So I usually pick pop culture references, GIFs, and I'll put them on Miro. And then I'll bring everyone in, like, how are you feeling today? Pick a GIF. So what's someone's favorite TV show? Or what's people watching? Send me a movie or TV show that you've watched recently.
Guardians of the Galaxy.
Guardians of the Galaxy. That's a perfect example because I love that movie, right? So have a picture of like Groot, a picture of Star-Lord, like crying, right? Gamora, angry, put all these characters with different emotions on it. And then as you come into the meeting, ask your participants to which character do you identify with today and why, right? And playing that game really gets to let you know either your clients or your team a little bit better and get a pulse on the meeting, right? How are they feeling? Oh, there's a lot of people angry. This is not going to be fun today, right? Or everyone's in a great mood, right? We could be a little bit more joyful. Cross-functional challenges. One great example here is that customer journey map. It is not just the role of product management in that journey, right? Usually it starts with marketing, there's product, there's design, there's customer service. There's a lot of other teams involved. So when you're doing customer journey maps, bring teams in from other departments and split them up and have challenges about, you know, how to create the best customer journey map with different perspectives. And when you have that team-based competitive style, it really invigorates people to try harder, to think outside the box, to be innovative, and then have some type of award, right? Whatever team wins, take them to dinner, take them to lunch, out for drinks, things like that. Make sure that there's an incentive involved. And finally, scoring systems. Google does this really well. They have an intake process for innovative ideas, right? So people submit ideas, and then they're ranked based on the idea, the feasibility of it, and other factors. And you know, if your selection passes and go through some different levels, like you might be getting a patent with Google, right, for creating new technology. So there's really exciting different ways to use scoring systems to drive innovation. Really quick on marketing. Some activities to do with your team if you're in the marketing area. Post-launch customer interviews. Split your team up. Say, hey, we're going to do a contest. We just launched a product. We want you to go out and interview our early adopters, and we're gonna do it for a week. And we're gonna base the feedback on, you know, how long was the interview, what insights did you get out of it, how credible were those insights, right? Reward your team that goes out and talks to customers and bring back the best insights. We are living in a very heavy, you know, data and analytics time right now. One of my favorite activities with the team is what I call the data detective exercise. So, has anyone heard of Sprint by Jake Knapp, or like the Google Design Sprint, right? You do a week. So take that concept of doing a challenge for a week, but tell your team they're all data detectives. So the first week, right, set the goals. Our goal is we launch this, you know, we're looking for insights in different areas, make sure they have access to Adobe Analytics, Google, whatever you're using, and then structure a week-long challenge to have different members in your team go through data and see what insights they can find. The competitiveness, again, of the challenge and for the reward drives them to find some things that you might not have found before, right? What's working, what's not working, maybe some correlations in the data that you didn't see. And the last is campaign leaderboards. So again, with marketing, breaking up teams, and especially cross-functional teams. So So as we just talked about, product, bringing marketing, customer service, everyone else in for the customer journey map, think about the opposite. Have the product marketing people bring in the engineers and the product marketers and customer service to be like, hey, we're doing our campaign, what are our ideas, how do we shape them, what content can we use, and then track the campaign, see who does the best, give some type of reward. With all this, too, you're at this conference because you're creative and you're ambitious, right? None of us would be here if that's not the case. Everyone has the power to develop their own games. And just like everything else we do, right, it's test and learn. Try something small, see what the reaction is, work with your team, repeat, right? Again, just start with clear goals and objectives for gamified activities. What are you trying to get out of this? Are you trying to get your team to be more productive? Are you trying to get more, increase retention on your product? Set the goal, create some games, prototype and test. We have a book on this if you're looking for more insights. So last with, how do you level up your product career? I have this pin on my wall next to my desk. I was at the product school conference, the last product con that they had. Someone from Amazon came up and they showed a sample PM skills scorecard. And I was kind of doing this, but not really, but it put it in perspective. I'm like, okay, for my career, I'm gonna list all the skills that I need to have to go where I wanna go. I'm gonna look at the different levels of skills to get to where my goal is. And then how am I gonna get there, right? So build a matrix of your skills and how you wanna get there. You can gamify your own product career. Hey, I made it to a 5 on marketing, right? Like, I just finished my MBA with a marketing thing, whatever. Like, that is a big goal for me. I'm gonna reward myself. So you can use these same game mechanics to gamify your own product career. And developing a high performance mindset. So imagine your career goals as epic boss battles awaiting you, right? But please do not battle your boss. It is boss battles, right? So we're looking at what are big things in your career that you want to accomplish. Is it the MPVP certification, right? It's like, all right, that's a boss battle. Transition from consultant to principal consultant, right? That was a big boss battle for me. There's speaking at a conference, right? Like, this is things that I'm looking at in my career, in my gamified career roadmap as boss challenges to battle. Analyze the skills that you need to get there. Relentlessly level up those skills to training and real world challenges. There's a mix between training, right, and actually doing it. So things that you're learning, implementing, taking those skills to level up your career, and seek out opportunities that test and expand edges your capabilities. Sometimes if you're trying something new, I've always, like, my nonprofit work, it's not just, I love helping nonprofits, but they are so in need for help. If I want to try a new marketing tactic or a new skill that I learned, usually I take that to the board that I'm working with and say, hey, no one's doing this. Can I test this out? And then obviously celebrate each accomplishment as XP that gets you promotion ready or whatever next stage that you want to go in your career. So just to review this really quick, break down the skills that you want to achieve in levels, right? Each skill gets you to a different level. You can use product road mapping software to create your journey and celebrate milestones. Like, I could create my own roadmap in Jira for my career and organize it this way and move things along. And then after you complete a few levels, create new ones, update your rewards. One of the key things for making gamification work over time is that it's fluid, it's not static. Change things, different levels, different points, challenges, and rewards. So, thank you for your time. Dive deeper with our book. You can also find more information on our website, levelupyourproduct.com. 25 Gamify is the code for 25% off the book until October 10th. We're not done yet, though, because we can't do a presentation on gamification without doing a game. So I'm going to turn it over to Bret. We're going to do a game. Winner will get a free copy of our book. Don't get too excited. It's good.
Okay, so if you can scan it from where you are, scan that code and log it in. If you can't, slide closer, or you can enter the code manually at menti.com. Now let me just click up there. This was like the tricky part. Is it
press
like,
enter to start quiz.
yeah, there you go. So faster you answer, more points you get. So this one's all about speed, since everyone's off. But What game franchise did I use as my prime example in my TEDx talk?
Everyone has voted.
Yeah. Oh, it is close. Very close. Anyone's game. Anyone's game.
All right, and question 2.
Which of these things can you use game elements to level up? Career, product, processes, all of the above.
Oh, wow. We got an engaged group here.
Tight game.
All right, question 3.
Which of these is not a Nintendo franchise? Mario, Zelda, Sonic, Kirby.
Wow, you guys are fast. Wow, we got some leaders emerging.
Big change there. Sonic is a Sega franchise.
All right, question 4.
How can product managers use gamification most effectively? Apply game elements randomly, make the experience highly addictive, align game elements to business goals, rely completely on intrinsic motivation. Nice. Everyone got it. But who was fastest?
All right, question 5.
Games have been around for roughly how long? 1,000 years, 2,000 years, 3,000 years, more than 4,000 years. A really long time, over 4,000 years.
All right, question 6.
Which video game came first? Pong, Super Mario Brothers, Donkey Kong, Pac-Man. That was a quick one. That was a quick answer.
All right, Agent X9 still in the lead. Question 7. Everyone's ready? Let's do it.
Which of these is not a good reason you would implement gamification? Punishment, engagement, guiding behavior.
Yeah, I'm glad everyone got that.
Depends what you
Well, it's close.
Wow.
All right, last question. It's your time to shine.
Which of the following is not a category of game element we described? Reward system, storytelling, random elimination challenge, progress tracking.
Nice. Wow, got some rock stars in this audience. Who voted the fastest? Agent X9, who's that? All right. Wow. Congrats.
Well done.
Oh, we don't have the book. It doesn't come out until next week, so you get the pre-release code. So it's a delayed prize.
Delayed gratification.
All right, so that leaves us with 3 minutes for questions.
Any questions?
Anyone?
Anyone?
Great presentation. So I think you mentioned earlier that too much gamification can cause people to feel like they're being manipulated.
Yes.
So I'm wondering if you could give an example of that, and also, like, how do you know when you kind of hit that sweet spot and you're not overdoing it or underdoing it?
Yeah. Do you have an example off the top of your head?
I mean, the one that obviously comes to my mind is like if you just walk down the street, there's a casino like right there. Like using those types of mechanics to create addictive experiences and create experiences that don't foster good in the end user is obviously like not where we want to be. Like we want our products to solve a problem, but not necessarily make them to the point where like our users become actually addicted to them. We want engagement, but we don't want it at the worsening state of them. I think is one of the keys.
Yeah, I mean, and even for good, right? So let's say like we're trying to do something good with gamification, but if everything is a game element, right? Like it bogs it down. It's hard to get through everything, right? It's like, okay, if you want to get to the next level, you got to jump through a bunch of hoops and do all these things and get points. And you get points for this and points for that. Like we talk about, one of our warnings is the future of gamification, right? Is we have all these new technologies with large language models and VR and AR. That if you over gamify everything, it's like everything in your life is going to be pointed or scored upon, right? And like that could have some negative psychological effects. So I think that's the kind of point that we're getting at with that, right? Like don't gamify everything and make it overwhelming. Use it as a complement to what you're trying to do.
I go back to like jobs to be done model, right? Like our goal is to help users accomplish those jobs. Their goal isn't to play a game. Their goal is to get those jobs done, and we want to guide them down that path. Their goal isn't to play the game.
Great. Others?
You mentioned some personas, right, that you use to kind of figure out what that user type is and what might motivate them. Can you say a little more about some examples? Are there?
Yeah. So there's a framework. It's actually called the Hexad, like game players framework, and it's used for game designers as well as product developers to determine like what type of player or what type of user you have. And it's from like the collectionist, where like they'll 100% the experience, to the griefer that like just takes joy in like making other people hurt in a game experience. And you can break these down, and that's the best framework that I kind of use for that. But go and look at that. I can't pronounce the author's name. Like I can pull it up for you after this. But Hexad, Hexad. It started as like the Hexad 6. And they've actually expanded it this last year to the Hexad 12, where there's 12 different player types or player archetypes. And that's kind of the one that I use to prescribe to, at least.
Yeah, same here. Actually learned it from Bret, so.
Any more? We've got time for one more. Anyone has one more question?
Could you go back to that slide with the book on it?
Yeah. Or actually, we have handouts on all the tables.
Yeah.
Oh, good.
And again, if you weren't here at the first, we have stickers, more handouts up here. If you want stickers for your kids or anything, come grab them. Like the book in D, I don't want to take all the stickers home with me, so please take as many as you want.
Great, thanks. Let's
Let's one more.
Yeah.
We could.
So one, I'm not sure I have a well-formed question, but play, a sense of play, is powerful access for a lot of things in the organization. Helps people tap into purpose, improv, these kinds of games. So I'm wondering too, and some of these games, they're like gimmicks, right? They can get you going. But I'm wondering to what extent or how can you use these things for kind of cultural loosening up to play in other sort of less structured games, just jump in, try, sort of to instill a sense of play in a culture to accomplish more things.
Yeah, I mean, I think, first thing for play for me as like a manager and a product leader, like I've always, used play as like, we finished a big thing or release or something like that, like let's go out. Like we had a paintball trip. I don't know if I'd recommend that to everyone or anyone again. We'd go out to, one of the amusement parks or mini golf or golfing, right? If you think about how many business trips, right, involve of golfing and playing that game as a way of bonding and getting to know each other. So that's just one of my examples. I'll let you chime in on that.
Yeah, I mean, to me, it's a culture thing, right? Like when I worked in game development, we like almost lived together to a certain extent. Like we're sleeping at the office, working huge hours, but those are still to this day like some of my best friends or people that I worked in games with. And you instill this culture of like camaraderie and openness and transparency. I think we lose that a lot of times when we come to software and product. Like I've been part of a few teams that are like that, but for the most part, you lose a little bit of that. And I think just even doing some of these exercises, like going paintball, going golfing, going these things, just creates a sense of like fun that you feel like you can be more of yourself. And just having that transparency, that kind of like no holds barred attitude will create a higher sense of play, I guess, in employees, where they feel like, hey, I can be more playful, I can be more open, and I can potentially be more vulnerable because I don't potentially have the lashback of that. And so I think it's a culture thing. I think ultimately it just boils down to having that culture of fun and enjoyment.
And just to add on to that, like my last company, we had ping pong and shuffleboard and stuff like that in the office, right? We would bring people together to play against each other. And then we did outings. The one I was thinking of that was really good was an escape room, right? So it breaks that kind of like awkward conversation, sitting in our, what are we gonna talk about? How's the weather today, right? It's like, no, you're in an escape room, you have a mission, and that purpose creates bonding from your teammates. So I think gaming is a powerful way to create those relationships at work. Yeah.
Great. Well, let's thank Mike and Bret.
Thank you guys for coming.